Hello, my name is Mark Canuco from Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This presentation is Technology in the Arts, the current work of Eric Whitacre and Jonty Hurwitz. As a point of departure and outline for this presentation, there will be a brief introduction, then a discussion on Eric Whitacre and Jonty Hurwitz's work, social capital, and then finally a conclusion. This presentation is an observation that reflects on the impact of recent technological tools that have allowed the creation of new approaches for the creative arts. Both the work of Eric Whitacre and Jonty Hurwitz will be discussed. Whitacre's work, utilizing social media and internet, construct a global virtual choir, manipulating and mixing thousands of uploaded YouTube videos. Whitacre has created a user-generated global phenomenon where singers from around the world sing together in a choir. The nanosculptures of Hurwitz are possible because of the technological developments of 3D printing. Utilizing the physical phenomena of two-photon absorption and 3D printing technology, Hurwitz manipulates a tiny 3D pixel or voxel to sculpt, layer by layer, the smallest representation of the human form. I will offer a brief presentation of the technology used, the processes of realization, and effects on society and science community as it relates to social capital. And now Eric Whitacre. In 2009, Whitacre attempted a simple experiment with social media. He asked singers to upload videos of themselves singing Lux Arumque to YouTube. The videos were then synchronized and mixed together to create a user-generated choir. Whitacre's definition of virtual choir appears on his website as, and I quote, "The virtual choir is a global phenomenon, creating a user-generated choir that brings together singers from around the world in their love of music in a new way through the use of technology. Singers record and upload their videos from locations all over the world. Each one of the videos is then synchronized and combined into one single performance to create the virtual choir." Close quote. As a rule, the choir practice is experienced with all singers and conductor physically in the same space. Singers are able to hear the nuances in dynamics, tone, tuning, and blend of other singers. The conductor is able to shape the tempi, tone, dynamics, tuning, and blend of the singers. The listener can experience this live or with an audiovisual recording. The virtual choir, on the other hand, advances this face-to-face tradition of choral music with digital technology and social media processing the choral music experience for both performer and listener. Each virtual choir has grown in number of participants, nations, and technicians. Both the collaborations with the technicians and social development of the choir is noteworthy. The first virtual choir, Lux Arumque, involved 185 voices, had 243 tracks from 12 countries. It was produced and managed by Scott Haynes. This first virtual choir resembles a traditional version of choir with rows of singers following a conductor. Lux Arumque currently has over 4,800,000 views on the internet. Sleep, Whitacre's second endeavor, contains over 2,000 videos from 58 countries. Sleep was directed by rehab studio Cake with a team of over a dozen technicians. In this second virtual choir, Sleep, the choir appears in a universe of floating planets, some labeled with the physical origins of the singers. They are connected by umbilical bridges of light, truly a universal representation of the global reality of the virtual choir and symbolically representing the collaboration of these singers from various countries singing together to make something beautiful. The third virtual choir, Water Night, contains 3,746 videos from 73 countries. It was directed by Cake with a team of over 15 technicians. This third virtual choir visually capitalizes on the massive size of the choir with continuous visual representations of water. Fly to Paradise, the fourth virtual choir, contains 8,409 videos from 5,900 singers from over 101 countries. Once again, Cake was the team behind the creation of the visual and audio aspect of the project. The technical crew of this project exceeded 30 individuals.
And all she ever thinks about is me.
The black and white urban setting of Fly to Paradise transforms into a color paradise where the protagonist flies over the urban landscape. The virtual choir phenomenon continues to grow in scope and participants. It is a novel 21st reconstruction of the traditional choral model. And I'll briefly talk about Jonty Hurwitz. In 2014, Hurwitz, initially an engineer, began with a re-examination of scale as it relates to sculpture. His desire was to create the world's smallest human form. Hurwitz has always been fascinated and engaged in the use of technology in his work. In his words, and I quote, "As technology starts to evolve faster than our human perception is able to handle, the line between science and myth becomes blurred. We live in an era where the impossible has finally come to pass. We have, in our own little way, we have become demigods of creation in our physical world. The nanoworks that I present to you here represent more than just a feat of science, though. They represent the moment in history that we ourselves are able to create a full human form at the same scale as the sperm that creates us in order to facilitate the creation." Close quote. For Hurwitz, the work would begin with capturing an image with photographic equipment. He located a studio in Sussex that utilized over 200 cameras. These synchronized cameras would capture an image from every possible angle. Hundreds of photographs were used as the beginning digital information in the creation of the sculptures. These images were then processed into a three-dimensional computerized model of the photographed human position. The three-dimensional model files were transferred to the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology for the subsequent phase. Working with Stefan Henschbach and his team, effort began constructing the three-dimensional model of the human form. The next process that was used to create the sculptures was a multi-photon lithography. This process uses femtosecond pulses of a well-defined, focused, near-infrared laser in a photosensitive polymer. This action fabricates a single three-dimensional form called a 3D pixel, or voxel. The voxel, approximately 100 nanometers in width, is the basic building block for the nano sculptures. Voxel by voxel, the sculptures take their shapes. The dimensions of trust are roughly 100 by 80 by 20 microns, approximately the size of a human sperm. The other nanosculptures are Cupid and Psyche, the First Kiss, and Intensity. The post-production phase involved various scanning electron microscopes to view the pieces. Once they were photographed, there was a need to demonstrate scale. The Karlsruhe Institute of Technology photographed trust on a human hair. Hurwitz also framed trust within the eye of a needle, thus establishing the size of the sculpture. Cupid and Psyche were placed on the head of an ant. These precious art pieces, a feat exemplifying the potential of humanity, exist no more. The nanosculptures were smudged out of existence by a careless fingerprint days before they appeared on the internet. The mythic inception, anticipation, and importance were replaced with a narrative. These nanosculptures developed a life of their own after their destruction, a story of human desire, tragedy, humor, and emotion emerged. Not only could they not be seen with the aid of an electron microscope, now they no longer exist. And now a brief discussion of social capital. Social capital, by its very nomenclature, refers to an economic sustainability and advancement. There has always been an economic arm to social capital. In general, discussions of social capital are framed in the value of human resources and the networks that are formed. In the world of art, this concept might be referred to as cultural capital. In a positive sense, societal groups benefit from the advancement of society and economic value that is generated by art. The value of Whitacre's inclusive works benefits global networks of singers and the efforts that the virtual choir has had on an international scope. It offers collaboration between singers and a host of technicians to realize a vision of the composer. It advances the culture both intellectually and aesthetically. The subgroups of the population that were involved in singing the virtual choirs have created bonds within the cultural choral world. Likewise, the intellectual and aesthetic value of the nanosculptures of Hurwitz advances the networks of followers and those curious. The work of Hurwitz spans the venues of art and science in a significantly robust practice. In his words, quote, "When you bring scientists into the art world, it gets so inspired and excited," end quote. It is precisely the foment network that is formed between art and science that propels the aesthetic for society to engage both mind and spirit. Art is a service to humanity. This collaboration between art and science initializes a positive phenomenon. Both the work of Whitacre and Hurwitz create the sense of community and pride on a global perspective. In conclusion, Whitacre and Hurwitz provoke a mental elasticity for the global mindset. The positive outcomes of participating and viewing the virtual choir continue to grow. The sustaining network development created by the viewing and creating of the nanosculptures of Hurwitz continues to dare cerebral and spiritual processes. The value in social cultural capital can be harnessed when networks connect for a collective reason. The virtual choir and the nanosculptures are the collective good generated by the involvement from spectators. The viewer completes and affirms the virtual choir. The curious mind finishes and avows the cycle of creation with the nanosculptures. I quote Dr. Levitin, 2014. In a sense, it represents another form of externalizing the human brain, a way of linking the activities, perceptions, and cognitions of a large number of brains to a joint activity for the collective good. Close quote. The art forms discussed today transcend their genre and fulfill the necessary need for social cohesion. Art has an impact on society. Thank you very much.